Hello and welcome to What Memory, the podcast for survivors of stroke and brain injury. I'm Stephen Masters and I'm here with Josh Reed. We've both had strokes. We want to share our experiences, find out how other survivors and their carers live with brain injury, and investigate what's new in brain injury research. And today we're joined by Matt. His stroke led him to start writing a fascinating blog and acquire a keen interest in the politics of brain injury.
So the first question I'm going to ask was, what was your life like before stroke? Just tell me something about yourself.
So I've got a young family. My wife and I have been married for 9 or 10 years. Oh no, she'll kill me for not remembering that.
Just says part of the stroke. Part of the stroke.
Part of the stroke, yeah. But just so strike one, okay?
Yeah, and I've got 2 children, 10 and 16, both girls.
Okay.
And we live in rural Hertfordshire, just outside Hitchin. So, yeah, and we've lived in Hitchin all our married life. I went to university in Nottingham, grew up in a place called Oakham in Rutland, and then moved down here with work after university. And I am a cybersecurity consultant.
Wow, okay.
So I'm very lucky in that I have a desk-based job that I can do from home.
Yeah.
And I happen to work for a company, CRMG, who we are all virtual anyway, so they didn't have to make any
adjustments.
We don't have an office anywhere. In fact, everybody is literally all over the place. 2 founders, one's in northern Scotland, other one's in I can't remember, it's Portugal or Spain now.
Wow.
But
yeah.
long way away.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of virtual company.
It's a virtual company in terms of where we all sit. Yeah. So
Brilliant. Well, it's sort of like tailor-made.
it is absolutely. I couldn't
stroke.
have asked for, and they've been so supportive of me.
Brilliant.
And one of I think probably the best vlog post I've been able to make was the one that we did. We did a panel discussion with them about what we've learnt about reintegrating somebody like me back into the workplace.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. Amazing.
So you're living in Hitchin. You're doing the cybersecurity work. You've got a family.
Yeah.
Been living there for 10 years or so.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Tell us about the stroke bit of this.
My stroke consultant considers the smoking gun. I fell off my mountain bike.
Oh wow.
It wasn't a huge fall.
Mm.
And damaged the carotid artery in my neck, which is the same injury that Andrew Marr, the journalist, had.
Right.
And I had absolutely no signs of head injury. I was wearing all the protective gear. I had a full face helmet on. Because it was... there's the first disaster. Okay. So... I don't know why. It's because it's an alarm. And alarms break through all the mutes, don't they? So I fell off my mountain bike. And then 2 weeks later... the clot that had formed where the tear was in the wall of my carotid artery moved to my brain.
Right.
So it was an ischemic stroke.
Right.
And I was blue lighted to Lister Hospital in Stevenage, where they did a thrombolysis to try and break down the clot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because we didn't know exactly when the stroke had happened, it happened at home.
Mm.
And that thrombolysis was delivered too late, so I had a secondary bleed on the right-hand side.
Wow. Okay.
Which is probably what caused most of the damage.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
In terms of my left-sided deficits.
Mm.
And luckily, when they administered the thrombolysis, they once they'd done that and settled me at stable, they put me in an ambulance again and sent me to Addenbrooke's.
Right.
In case I needed the brain surgery.
Yeah.
Which I did. So I'm very glad they did that.
Yes.
Because Addenbrooke's is an incredible hospital.
Yes, it really is.
And,
so you fell off your bike.
Yep.
Just, what's it? So during the weekend with the family?
During the weekend, and I was actually, frighteningly, I was on my own. I'd driven myself. I put the bike back in the car and I drove home because I had no signs of head injury
No.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Well, I drove home having a stroke from Stevenage, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And actually drove right past Lister Hospital, all the way up the M1, about 20 odd miles, to Bedfordshire. And yes, and while I was starting to feel very woozy, my right leg was going and everything like that.
Yeah.
But you had no signs.
No signs. Well, because at that point it wasn't a stroke. It
It
was
wasn't
just
actually-
a tear in the artery.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, I had no signs of. The only thing that would have picked it up at that point would have been an MRI, which they'd have never given me
No. of
Yeah.
course
because
not.
I didn't have any signs of head injury at that
No.
point.
No.
So
well,
So it's the mildest of things can set off a train of events,
yeah.
yeah.
which lead you to
Potentially,
here. So, my God,
Yeah.
fathers. So once you found out you're going to have brain surgery, how do they explain that to you then?
They don't because I was unconscious and
Or
everything.
by the, you
So-
were out of it by then.
Yeah. So it just happened. So my wife.
At
was
what
with
point
me.
did you actually then go unconscious out of it? Were you actually at Lister?
Well, yes, I was at Lister, so I was unconscious for the journey to Cambridge.
Wow.
Didn't know it. Can't remember anything about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then arrived there, and I don't even really know how long it was before when I arrived and actually did the surgery. I've never asked my mum and dad or Belinda because I don't want to take them back there.
No.
I try not to go back to things like I don't know whether you guys found this. When you meet somebody new, they always want to know what was the core, what happened to start with. I think it's because it's our inbuilt wish to avoid it happening
Yeah.
to us, right? It's a self-preservation
Yeah.
reflex.
Yeah.
But I don't think about it now because I've accepted this is me
Mm.
and I want to make the best of what I want to be the best
Yeah,
me
yeah,
I
yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a different life now, but I'm
Yeah.
comfortable it's going to be a good life.
Yeah.
But it's, but I've got to get on with
Mm.
adjusting and doing the things.
Would
that
you
I
say
need to
that
do.
it hasn't defined you then?
No,
No.
no.
Because I think what me and Josh felt was we didn't want this thing to define us.
No.
But
Yeah.
after a while, we realised it was going to very severely change our lives. So
Yes.
therefore, there was some kind of definement by the
Yes.
stroke, whether we liked it or not.
Yeah. We're sort of like, okay, we can accept what happened,
Yes.
but we want to sort of look back. And obviously for myself, like there wasn't like just a random thing that I could have done slightly differently,
No,
like eaten
Yeah,
less
yeah.
Yeah.
fatty foods or something like that. It was an operation that went wrong. But so I think for me, it's kind of like I'm able to look back because I
Yeah.
didn't sort of.
And even though potentially it is the mountain bike which caused it,
Mm.
I've had many years of happy mountain biking, and
Yeah.
I don't wish I hadn't gone
No,
out. That
yeah,
day,
yeah.
you know?
No,
Because
you can't
I've
regret
got
something like that.
Years
Yeah,
and years
yeah.
and years. And
But are
I'd
you
love
back
to
on the
get-
mountain bike?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But I am physically capable of it now, I
Wow.
think. But the thing is that now it just feels like the bikes at the moment feel slightly the wrong side of the risk-reward curve. Having got
Yeah,
here
yeah.
and having put my family through this experience,
Yeah.
if I fell off again or did something again, I would just think, why did you, then
Yes,
I would
why?
regret
Yes.
that
Yes,
decision.
you would regret
Yes.
it the second time round, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can understand that.
No, definitely. I get that completely because like, I know that even though I've always been a risky person because obviously with my cystic fibrosis and being told from a very early age that 30 years would be my cut-off point and that was it, that's all that I would get. I sort of pushed myself out there and did all the things and just did things that probably if a normal person would go, maybe
Yeah,
not.
maybe not.
But I was that, and so now I am like, I'm like, is it worth it? Probably not. But there's still that part which goes, yeah, I will do that, but I won't do the extreme version of that.
But you want to live the full life in
Yes.
in that
Yeah,
time that
yeah.
you have.
Exactly.
So when did they tell you that you only had to 30? What age were you given that news?
God, I think I was probably about 12.
Wow.
So because I think it was a biology class, I think, that talked about cystic fibrosis. And it sort of brought up all those questions. So then I asked my mum, and I said, well, they were saying things like this. So, and she said, yeah, no, it is. Sat me down and just said, no, it is around 30. That's the average. And obviously it's better than, because I grew up at a time when a lot of the people that were sort of older than me and I looked up to in cystic fibrosis were sort of 18, 20, and they were sort of passing away. And so I was aware of it. And then once, because there was a massive move, I can't remember what year, but there was a massive move to then separate all the cystic fibrosis patients. To basically, you would meet up and you would get everyone in the same room, and then it would be like they found that there was like 4 genetic types, and they could pass each other. You could give cystic fibrosis, your own cystic fibrosis, to another person who has cystic fibrosis, and there could be very severe complications if that happened. So they basically shut you all off. So individual rooms. You couldn't see another cystic fibrosis person just in case. So all of that happened, but I'd sort of just seen the tail end of where you could meet up. So there was like 20 of you meeting up in the same area, and playing games and things like that. So I sort of saw that, but then I was shut away, and so I sort of knew that people were dropping off their perches in the nicest possible way when they're about 18.
Nicest possible way, as you do.
So I was aware of it, but that was definitely the catalyst that sort of like 12-ish beyond biology. So,
but that must have been pretty devastating to you as well, because I mean, I found that network effect is really important.
Yeah.
You know, talking to and working with people who have sat where you sat, you know, is important.
I always needed that, but so it was difficult. I found it very difficult when that change happened. But also, you know, when people were dying about 20s, it was kind of like, in my head, I was like, oh, that's quite old anyway, because I was 12.
Because you think that, don't you?
Well, anybody going up to 30 is probably ancient, aren't
Yes, exactly. So it wasn't like
away.
a shock. It was more of as it got closer and closer to that sort of age, I was like, oh, okay, so it might not be too long then. So make the most of everything, make even more.
I think that's where your resilience came from, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Because when I first met him, we were both in a dreadful state, and but I could see that he had just this kind of like drive. It was just amazing, you know, to kind of keep going and getting out of this. And I just thought, wow, if he can do this at this age, I can't be a wimp about this myself, really. You know, I've got to get me out together here.
But no, I mean, it's definitely, I've always had to fight, and that's the thing. I think I've always had to fight for every breath, every sort of day.
Literally.
Yes. And so it's just part of my life. Knowing that. And it's kind of weird now being like, oh, it's even though I had this stroke, I'm actually the healthiest I've ever been, and so it's kind of a weird dichotomy.
Have you ever been unhealthy before you had the stroke?
No, not really. I mean,
so this came as a bit of a shock when you realised you were in this
lifestyle perspective. No,
so when they explained to you after you'd woken up and the surgery, somebody explained what had happened and what the likely effects were. What was your reaction to that then, or how did they tell you that?
That's an interesting question. In all honesty, I do remember my wife calling 999 and her saying to the call receiver, I think he's having a stroke. You know, and obviously when you're the age I am and you guys are, you know, you don't know that 30% of strokes happen to people under 50, do you?
Yeah, no. That came as a shock to me.
Not common knowledge.
No.
So and I did know because other members of my family. My grandmother had a couple of strokes late on in her life, so I knew the effect it had on her. So I guess I sort of knew what it was. And when I woke up, it was very obvious. My left side was at that point was completely non-responsive.
Right.
Which feels remarkable now when I can walk pretty well and I've got good upper limb function compared to many people in my situation. So I mean, it was, I guess I sort of came to that realisation.
Yeah.
Even it
kind of dawned on you that
it
something
dawned on me
major had happened.
slowly. Yes.
Yeah.
And the fatigue, I think, was the thing that really showed me that something was radically different.
Oh yeah, the fatigue.
Because-
Oh my god, yeah, okay.
Because it's not like anything you've ever experienced, is it? It's not even like a long haul flight.
No, it's not tiredness. It's hard. It's impossible to explain.
No, yeah.
And also,
in fact, the word fatigue is completely the wrong word because people assume it. I'm so fatigued. It's like, oh, just I picked up a pencil or went out for a cup of coffee or something, and I just.
Yeah.
But of course, this is on a scale unheard of. My fatigue was it just left me completely unable to move. Yeah.
Well,
So you still get that?
Not to that extent. I mean,
No.
I used to be at 7 o'clock at night in hospital. It was like somebody had reached around the back of my head and switched me off.
Yeah.
And sometimes my parents and my wife would tell me I'd fallen asleep in the middle of a sentence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And things like that. And it was horrendous. What I found is, as I've become more and more physically active, that seems to help.
Yeah.
What hasn't changed really is when I'm really using my brain and the cognitive activity. So when I work, I do have to space out my work and take regular breaks. And I used to, when I first started work, I used to take naps. But now I don't take naps because every time when I take a nap, I wake up feeling like I wish it had gone on longer. So what I actually do is I go and lie down on the bed and I make sure that I don't do anything that stimulates my eyes. So I put my phone down, I don't watch TV, I don't read a book. I just do some physio exercise on the bed or something, so that I'm not cognitively stimulated in any way. And that seems to work for me.
Brilliant.
When you find out you've had the stroke, how long were you in hospital for?
I was in hospital about 3 or 4 weeks, I think. So I was in neuro ICU for about 6 days, I think.
Right.
And then they put me back in the ambulance and sent me back to Lister.
Yeah.
So then I sat on 2 stroke wards for a period, one after the other. And I was very lucky that a bed in rehab came up quite quickly.
Right.
Because I was fully medically stable by then.
Right.
They could send me to the Danesbury Neurological Centre in Old Welling.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, if you're going to have a brain injury, Hertfordshire is a good place to have it.
Yeah.
Because we have the Danesbury Centre.
Yes.
And the Hearts Trust seems to really want to invest in people who've had brain injury and recover them to the greatest extent they can.
I have to say that location, like it is.
It's a
like I say,
postcode lottery.
isn't it? It's like if you want a good stroke experience, location is an important factor. I mean, we're quite good in Bedford.
Yes, I think.
I think
somewhere like we are now.
Like we are now,
at Headway.
a lot of places. Yes, I
don't have those facilities for people, but
no.
I guess that you do have to sort of be not a certain level, but sort of like, because they do take all types of people here, but you have to be capable of certain things to be able to get here, because you need to be able to get a lift, you need to be able to...
there is that element.
That element, but I'm sure that...
But from what you've said, your parents were in the background, your wife was in the background, kind of steering your recovery?
Yes, especially in the early stages. So we're lucky in that our house has an annex on the side, which, we bought this house with my parents in mind as they got older. So they actually essentially lived at our house for the best part of a year,
Wow.
and that was
Wow.
part
okay.
of the fact that they wanted to come and see me regularly, but they also were a critical part of the care package around my children.
Yeah.
Yes.
And logistics,
Yeah, yeah.
so that Belinda wasn't broken
Yeah.
by this experience.
Mm.
So I was very lucky that I have family around who wanted to support me and were able to, and we were lucky in that we had a house that could absorb my mum and dad for that period of time.
Yes.
And it was particularly lucky because when I came home, it meant that I had a downstairs shower.
Yeah.
So
Right. So
I had a wet room downstairs, so we didn't have to have any real adaptations to the house at that point. All that was needed was equipment services just brought me a shower chair. And it was fine.
Perfect.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're quite lucky or fortunate that your house was already set up for a possible stroke.
It was.
Scenario.
Yes.
Not with his intention, obviously,
instantly, I never had to live downstairs because when I got just before I left the second rehab place I was at, I'd learnt to climb the stairs.
Yeah.
Which I consider to be my superpower now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The day that I climbed the stairs at the Marlbrook Centre was unquestionably, that was the biggest physical achievement of my life.
Of your life.
Yeah.
And I went from taking single stairs in the parallel bars to climbing a full set of stairs. Well, actually, at the Marlbrook Centre, you're on the second or third floor in the gym. So you have to go downstairs first before you can come back up.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute, you have to go back up because you're going down half a flight of stairs, so you're between floors. So your physio's got to be confident that you can get back up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I did go down the stairs and then I climbed back and I almost cried at the top when I got to the top. And David, my physio, said, "Wow, that is so cool." And I said, and my physio said, "Sod the stair lift, Matt," because I'd told him beforehand we were pricing up the stair lift for when I went home. And he just said, "Sod the stair lift. If we've got 2 weeks left here, we can teach you to do this safely."
Yeah.
And that was cool because it was being able to climb the stairs means the difference between living in our house as we intended to and being on the same floor as my children at night.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty cool. And then when I got home, I had to climb the stairs because my wife had assembled this sort of flat pack bedside table on wheels, and she'd put it upstairs to motivate me to climb stairs early. So so that's
Brilliant.
good.
No.
It was good.
So you had your family around you.
Yeah.
Your mum and dad were there. But how did that affect them? When you weren't in the room, so to speak, what were they coping with, do you think?
Oh, I mean, my mum and dad, it was profound because they're in their 70s.
Yeah.
They weren't prepared for something like this to happen to a relatively young person.
Yeah.
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 And
How old were you when you had the stroke?
I was 44.
44, right, okay. So well below the average age. Well, not the average age, but well below the age you expect that to
Absolutely.
happen. So, your family are there.
Yeah.
What are they thinking about, do you think, in terms of looking after you?
I think they're thinking, oh my God, what is the pathway? And it was exactly the same, I think, as I was thinking lying there in the bed, like, what is our future now
Yes.
about? Am I going to ever be able to work again?
Yeah.
But I was thinking about, will this mean that my children don't get the opportunities that they deserve?
Yes.
And I'm sure my wife was probably thinking a bit of that as well.
Yeah.
And also that it must have been physically so hard to be looking after them, transporting them to all their activities, etc., as a single parent.
Yeah.
And also doing all the miles to come and see me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
every day. So that uncertainty, I think, probably weighed heavily on them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And my children, I still don't, in the immediate aftermath, I don't want to take them back there,
No.
really. But I suspect they were just scared that Daddy was going to die. Well, I mean, initially, when I was in ICU, Belinda didn't bring the children to ICU because it was such a scary place where everything beeped. That's all I can remember about it.
Oh, the endless beeping. Yes.
All I can remember really about ICU is everything beeped. And apparently, I was one of the best, the healthiest people in there.
Yeah.
At that point, which is difficult to believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I do remember one other thing. I think it was the second or third day I was in there. My dad leaned over me and said, "I'm so sorry, Matt. Today's your birthday." And he kissed me on the cheek, and it really did feel like the end of my world, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
But you obviously don't feel that now, though.
No, I don't.
No.
Because I've got new drivers and goals, and I feel like I'm on the road to becoming the best me I can be.
Yeah.
And there's important work to be done. So I've done some things since I got back home. So when I got back home, I was talking to my boss in one of our one-to-one meetings and explaining, you know, where I was and what I was doing, and in terms of physio and things. And he said, "Wow, you've learnt so much from this experience. You need to journal it and put it down. Other people would." So I wrote this patient's guide to neuro rehab, essentially. What are the important lessons that I've learnt, and it felt good. It felt like almost a therapy activity for me. Well, it was, because I was typing and my left hand was being used for that.
Yes.
So that was good. And then when I presented it to, because I was still being seen by community at that point,
Right.
when I showed it to my OT, she was bowled over by it. And she said, "We've got to share this with, you know, all the physios, all of the therapy team." And whenever I showed that to the physios, they were completely blown away by it. And the physio who worked with me, I've still got a functional electrical stimulator to help me walk, which I wear some days. And when I gave it to her, she said, "This is amazing. We need to get this to the patients at Danesbury." So, and I got so much energy from that. Wow, I've done something that's going to make, you know, in the same way I'm sure you guys do, when you realise how much this podcast does for people.
Yes,
You know?
it's about making a difference.
And I thought, wow, this is important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, you know, I was a good citizen and I was doing good work and stuff, but I wasn't ever going to do something important in my old life.
Yeah.
And then I suddenly thought, oh, maybe this is important. And then when I became integrated into that stroke community after getting home, I realised so many people, you know, were fighting and struggling for any therapy support.
Yeah.
Yes.
And whilst Headway is a marvellous organisation, it is a charity that for me is filling the gaps because care isn't.
Yeah.
There isn't good enough care.
Absolutely.
That's available to people, rehabilitation, and that was when I sort of thought about starting the blog, because I thought, what's the next logical step that I can make to make a difference? What's going to have an impact potentially?
Yeah.
And it's also writing that neuro rehabilitation guide was giving me energy to keep my recovery going.
Yeah.
At a time when I'm sure a lot of people lose motivation, because I got to a point where I could do everything at home that I needed to independently, but it was just, you know, not as fast or efficient as it used to be.
Yeah. It does. Yeah, it definitely does. Having that being like, well, listening to our podcast, the first podcast ever back, you can hear the difference between our speech and
God, yes.
the changes. And it is those sort of little things that you go, oh, okay, actually, yeah, I can see the difference. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying
Yeah.
and I'm a very motivated person anyway. Like Stephen knows, I will sit there and do a million exercises in one day until I get it right. Like I am that sort of person who likes to beat myself. I've always have been, because I've never had the confidence, because I couldn't win at sports when I was younger because of my cystic fibrosis. I've had to beat myself, and because of that, like that is something that's really helped with the stroke. Is that is what you are trying to do? You're trying to beat
every day. You want to be that bit
better,
more capable than you were the previous day, don't you?
Yeah.
In terms of your work, you've been working in cybersecurity all your life, presumably.
Well, I've been doing IT type work.
IT work. So you're. How did your work feel about it? You went missing for a bit, obviously. When you arrived back, it's like carry on as normal, or
no? I mean, they were brilliant. Well, number one, they supported me all the way through my recovery process. So, not only did they, pay me some of my wage during that period, but they also, members of the team came to see me physically.
Wow.
And they live quite a long, as I said, quite a long way away. My boss is in Scotland, and our delivery manager is in Birmingham. He came down to see me in hospital early on. But it is an unusual business. It's essentially a family business. So it is a very caring business.
Yes.
And it's a very small business as well. So, and I'm very lucky in that my skill set is very much in demand.
Yeah.
So it's not easy for them to go out into the marketplace and get a replacement mapped.
Yeah.
So it is in their interest to bring me back and integrate me. Even if I'm, and I'm a bit less capable than I used to be, but it's it's a very caring company.
Did you find you lost some of your skills, or you lost your memory of what you were supposed to be doing?
No, that is the thank God I do have all of my long-term memory is good. My short-term and working memory is fairly appalling. Like that thing where you walk down the stairs and you don't remember why you walked down the stairs. So I have to, write things down. And also if I'm working on if I've got a couple of documents open on my PC and I go to the loo, sometimes I come back and I can't remember what I was doing or which document I was working on, or where I was up to in maybe a review or something like that. So, I do have a lot of post-it notes now, which say, start at paragraph 4 on page 8 or whatever. Yeah. And
but at least you've got a system.
Yes. Yeah.
Because a lot of people get into that situation, but they don't have the system of post-it notes to get them out of it.
Yeah.
And actually, we were in that. We just forget what we were doing.
Yeah. Next week on the blog, I've got the second part of my little series on fatigue.
Yes.
And I've got what I think is something that I hope other people can replicate. I've got a few people that I know who've had strokes that are starting to use it. So when I was at my former employer, GlaxoSmithKline, I was taught some techniques called Lean Six Sigma, which are what made Toyota a great company. Essentially, they applied it after the war. And I've got this system where you prioritise the jobs and move, and then say, okay, what am I going to do today based on my energy level? And I move them across so that it enables me to pace and prioritise the tasks that I need to do.
Okay.
In a work context and in a personal context. Yeah. So I still put things on that board. If Belinda and I are going out for a meal at the end of the day, I know I need energy for that.
Yeah.
So it goes on the board. And at the top of the priority list.
Yeah.
Because I know I've got to at the end. So I can't run myself ragged on work stuff that day.
Yeah.
Because I know I need that energy.
That's fantastic that you can actually arrange your energy level, a bit like fueling a car, isn't it? You know, you just, if you're going a long journey, you fill the car with petrol. But a lot of people we found can't do that. You know, they can't. Don't
But
have
you need
the-
a system and tools, like you said.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
what you need. And
I was just lucky that I'd had some training which was reapplicable
Right.
yes, yeah.
in that way.
Yeah, because I was definitely very like, yeah, we'll just see how it goes. So
Yeah, yeah.
I would go 100% until I crash and be like, oh, okay, and then I'd probably do that again 100 times, and then be like,
Yes,
right,
you
okay,
did.
something I need to change. Something needs to change here. So I basically just did it not through a sensible route, but definitely through trial and error, which it's worked, but it probably there was a lot of mistakes that I didn't need to make.
Yeah.
Yes. Whereas you seem to have missed out on that. Well, there must have been a time in the middle.
Well, I did.
somewhere
Yeah,
where
I
you
did have
missed
a
out on-
phased
Yeah.
introduction to work.
Yes.
So in terms of my hours, I didn't work anything like. Well, I still don't work full-time hours.
Yeah.
Right.
But in terms of that introduction, we moved. We moved on the basis of the number of hours I did. It's not an organisation where they want to count how many hours you're sat at your desk.
Yes.
It's about the value we deliver that's important.
Yes.
Right.
So each week, or every 2 weeks, or every month, my boss and I'd sit down and we'd look at how much work I was doing and what my capacity was, and then we'd look at pay again in a kind of conversation
Yeah.
Yes.
and say, okay, what's that mean for I can and he would say, I can see the value here that you're delivering, and it looks like it's about 50-60% of what you were able to do before. That's fair enough, and it was an open conversation.
And they're happy with that, and you're happy with that.
We're happy to have that conversation, that open and honest conversation.
No, that's
yeah.
brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant,
yeah.
because I don't think a lot of people are in the situation
No, I'm
of
very
work
lucky.
where
And that's the thing. It's like it's very much like they're like, right, a normal business would sort of go, well, you're only doing 56%, so we can get someone else to do it instead.
Yes.
That's how a lot of companies look, and you sort of understand, because you're like, yeah, they're having to build a business, they're having to run a business, but having an understanding and being able to do what your company does, it's the way forward, but it's a slow process for
It's
a lot of
interesting.
places.
And there
Can we
isn't
get back
much
to
guidance out there
Oh,
for
good. Not at all.
employers
Not at all.
on how to do this.
Oh God, no.
No.
And I think it's really interesting what you said, because you got your family around you. I think that's such an important
Yes.
part of recovery. It takes 2-3 people to have a stroke.
Yeah.
It's not just the
Yeah.
person who's had a stroke; it's everybody around them. And that happened with you and me
Yeah.
and you, Matt. I think your employer has made the adaptations in their working style around what you're capable of. And I think one thing that is not happening in this country, with like PIP and things like that, they seem to think that everybody can come off that and go into work. And of course, we've got to have a culture where people do make adjustments as the norm.
Yes.
People
Yes.
have a stroke, you make adjustments. But we haven't got anywhere near that. And which brings me on to, you've got very political about strokes. Because
I've
from your
started
blog and from
to.
your conversations, you've obviously got yourself into a kind of parliamentary level.
Well,
What-
I'm starting to do
Starting
that.
to-
Haven't quite
But
built
what
that
got you
yet.
into that then? Why did you go in that direction?
Well, the more and more people I talk to, so I'm sure a lot of the listeners here are regularly engaged with Different Strokes, which is the charity for young working age stroke survivors.
Yeah.
And as I kind of met more and more people in the community and saw, the incredible therapy support that I've had. I've had really good opportunities, and lots of people don't get that.
No.
And yes, a lot of it's down to you as an individual as to what you do with that and how hard you work with that. But if you haven't got the opportunity in the first place,
Or not even aware that the opportunities exist.
Yes.
That's the other thing we've
Yeah.
found, is that
Yeah, that's true.
there's no sort of signposting to
No.
anything really. I mean, I had 6 weeks of once a week people would come around, various OTs, and then that was signed off, and
Yeah.
that was it. And we were left to thinking,
You've reached
what
the
do we
end.
do now?
Yes.
What do we do now?
You're good
You know?
enough. That's
Yeah,
kind of
good
the-
enough. Yeah, good enough. You're falling over all the time, but apart from that, life's good.
Yeah.
So I'm quite interested in how far you've got along with this then. So how did you get into that and meet all these people?
I guess basically, when I saw that, what the situation was like for the people, it's just not good enough. And also, when I look at the value I've been able to add, now I am back being a contributing member of society. I'm paying my taxes and stuff like that, but I'm also able to go back and be a volunteer leader with my Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, could I have done those things without the level of rehabilitation support that I've got? No. And the other thing that's very obvious now is the financial impact this has on the country is enormous. So the latest report on this by the ABI Forum and the All-Party Parliamentary Group in Westminster says £43 billion of financial
We've
drag.
just done the podcast where we went through all the figures.
Yeah.
And
It's
it was
frightening.
absolutely staggering, the amount of money. I mean, it ran into, 40, like you say, 40 something billion pounds. That was in just sort of direct costs. I mean, I know, we just went through that, didn't we? We did a whole thing about it. And we're going to follow up on this. But you seem to know an awful lot more about that parliamentary group.
Yeah, so I've started to engage with my local MP, and I would encourage all of you listening to get along and do it physically. Yes, send them an email, but go along physically and talk to them specifically about the national ABI strategy, which was promised by Boris Johnson back in 2000 or 2001, I think.
Yeah.
And still hasn't been delivered.
Still hasn't been delivered, yes.
But it's critical to get this addressed, because it's going to be, even once that's approved, it's going to be a 10-15 year journey to build the capacity in the NHS system to cover the amount of patients. Was it 335,000 people get admitted with a brain injury every year?
Yeah.
Half of them with strokes and half of them basically traumatic brain, like, industrial injuries and stuff like that. Or getting the red kicked in like Jamie. So there's so many people. But if you double that to the amount of people then who have to look after them and have a different lifestyle because of it.
Yeah.
But it's not put up in the kind of social consciousness or political consciousness anywhere near the level
it should be.
It's an invisible cost, and a lot of these people are invisible to society as well.
So what would you say the future of kind of stroke recovery would look like in a perfect scenario?
In a perfect scenario, every county in this country would have a Danesbury Neurological Centre.
Right.
Offering inpatient and outpatient support, and every single person who was admitted with a brain injury would get the opportunity to do at least one round of inpatient support.
Yeah.
But it's different everywhere in the country. So in some places, they'll just look at you, and if you've had a stroke, the standard model is, you'll go, once you're medically stable, you'll go to rehab. And in Hertfordshire, the reason they look at it like that is you're not then in a hospital bed.
Yeah.
So the savings to the system as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the cost of a neuro rehab bed. I'm sure it's a lot of money, but it's not as much as a bed on a stroke ward and things like that.
Yeah. See, and in the end, it's, in a horrible sense, it's a cost-benefit analysis, isn't it?
It is, yes.
And
I hope that's how
nobody
they
seems
look
to
at
have gone through that process of saying,
although they are in the beginning, very beginnings
of,
of
they? Yes.
look, it's actually, trying to get the government to look at the actual figures.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Which is what that report was all about.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's going to take 15 years because it takes so achingly long, which brings me on to this kind of idea that we can kind of organise it ourselves. That people have had strokes in a way we can't wait around for the whole of government, the whole of the Treasury, the whole of the NHS, which is a kind of giant ship takes 16 years to turn around, that in a way we've got to start organising ourselves
Yes.
better.
Yes.
Because
I
I think
agree
the
with that in an extent, but I think one of the best ways we can do that is by putting pressure
Yeah.
on the politicians
Yeah.
in whatever way we can.
Do you think it's possible that we could form another kind of, given how many people have had strokes, that there is a kind of community of people who've had strokes who know more about strokes than the people who are trying to organise their recovery?
Yes, I think that's fair, and I think certainly that community knows a heck of a lot more than the politicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, it's about, in order to start that process, we're going to need to influence not just one or two politicians, because once this gets through, I mean, if we look at what happened with the welfare bill, you know, when Rachel Reeves or somebody brings forward a proposal to spend what will be a massive amount of money over a long period, it will need support across the House
Yeah.
to get through. So it's not good enough to think, you know, a government with a majority will be able to push this through. And we need all party support anyway, because the length of time for this project, there will be changes of government.
Yeah,
in
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
timescale.
So it's got to be
So it's
ticking
got to
along
be-
all the time, irrespective of who's in.
But if you think there's a national strategy for cancer,
Yes.
Yeah.
with actually there's a lower number of people at any given time
Yes. Yeah.
in the system going through
Yeah.
it
Then there are with stroke, which
than we are with
came
brain
as
injury.
a profound shock to me over the last. I've slowly but surely worked out the number of people who are involved in stroke in this country is so great that the fact that it's not kind of recognised as kind of a major drag on the whole economy, if drag is the right word, probably not, that nobody's addressing it yet.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's all-party parliamentary things where the parties aren't the important bit here. It's
No.
the kind of mechanisms of government and health planning, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's got to be changed. But can we influence it enough? Is it all the people who've had strokes, considering how many of us there are, and we are voters,
Yes.
but do we have enough influence because of our conditions, because of the way we think, because we just don't, we're looking after our own rehab too much? Not too much, but it takes up a
Yeah.
volume of our time,
Yes.
doesn't it?
It does. I think we
So-
can if we ally with people like the leadership of Headway. So, for
Yeah, yeah.
instance, when I went to see my MP and had a chat with him, I was surprised by the level of knowledge that he had about brain injury. And it turned out in a previous parliament he'd actually worked with some members of the ABI committee,
Yeah.
and he was a Headway service user.
Oh,
So
right.
when I talked to my local Hitchin Headway, and they actually came and visited me because they liked the blog, and I said, you know, you might want to talk to Alistair Strathern, because he talked to me and said he was a Headway service user and he was very knowledgeable and very supportive of you. And I think yesterday or the day before, Headway met with him in Hitchin at his offices, and you know, apparently it was a very positive meeting. So there are levers that we can pull on
Yes. Yeah.
as a group.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that's a great point. And with social media, it's much easier to pull together a community
Yeah.
in one direction than it's
Yes.
ever been before.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Do you feel you're part of a community now of people who've had strokes?
Yes.
Because I think up to when I had a stroke, that I had no sense of
No.
stroke at all, let alone that there was all these people. So it came as a bit of a shock to me. And so when you find out how many people there are and how much influence we could have
Yeah.
as a group, that's what I think I'm coming down to, is that we can apply a lot more pressure
Yes.
Yeah.
as a group thing. But organising ourselves is much more difficult, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
Which is why I
That's
think
possible.
your blog and your your pamphlet that you did, what a brilliant idea. And in fact, it's so well received because it's
Yes.
the first time they're getting feedback really from someone who's actually been in the situation as opposed to someone who's taught what it's like to have the stroke.
Yeah.
Is that feedback mechanism is the one that's really making the changes.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, it's a slow process, and you know, there's a way to go. I don't want to overstate what I've achieved so far, but I think it's a platform. And
Yes.
you guys probably look at me and think of my crazy T-shirt that I've got today. So I've got a Brainfart blog
the T-shirt.
T-shirt
Yes.
with a QR code, which me and my friends wore when we went to Lord's Cricket Ground 2 or 3 weeks ago. And a lot of people did scan the QR code on the front of my T-shirt, and
I think it's a great idea.
and they were engaged, and you know, we talked about being invisible. You know, when I wear this T-shirt, I'm pretty visible.
Yeah.
In a public space, you know.
Wear your stroke with pride. There you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
But what I'm thinking about you though is your sense of purpose has moved from your
My
job and your
personal
family and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff into some very different idea. I mean, before you had the stroke, you would never have thought of going to your member of parliament and lobbying on behalf of something else. It doesn't sound like that.
No.
So now you've got this kind of renewed, but very stroke-centred sense of purpose, as do Josh and I. So I think that is a motivation which I never had before. I mean, in my job, I was passionate about my job, loved my job, but I never had an ambition outside of that very narrow world that I lived in of graphic design, which I loved. But now I've got this kind of focus on something else other than me, which I find quite weird, you know, because I've never done before.
Yeah.
And I see that in you very much.
Yeah. I mean, the first part of recovery is fundamentally, I think, it is necessarily a selfish experience, right?
Yeah,
so
100%.
the best way I can help my wife and my kids is by being the best me.
Yeah.
So, and when you're in that bubble of inpatient rehab, particularly, you know, all you have is your weekly schedule of therapy on the wall, and it's a total focus on that, and 100% focus.
Yeah, because you're not able to sort of worry about anything else. You've just all you have the energy for is to focus on that.
Yeah.
So
and I can't take my kids to football training or
No.
to the climbing wall or whatever it is they're doing that week. So the best way I can help them is by being the best me, so that at the end of the day I can go home and work again and support them. But you're absolutely right. As you get integrated, and I would absolutely encourage everybody listening, being integrated with your local community and or that wider stroke community via social media is important. Finding your people.
Yeah.
You know, when I found this podcast, I was very excited when I started to listen. And I started, like most people do in this podcast, so I listened to like episode 54 because that was where you were at that point. And I thought, oh my goodness, why didn't I find this earlier? I'm going to have to go back to square one.
Have you listened to them all then?
I've got there's a set in the middle I haven't quite got to
The
yet.
mountains are climbed there, I think.
But the early ones, where Scott was talking about memory, and your major, obviously, given the title, your major focus was memory for that first 10 or 15. I mean, I took so much from that. And that actually showed me, wow, look at what you can do for other people here. You know, and I need to take the next step beyond the guide I'd written. Because once you've done that and you put it into the ether, I was getting feedback from my physio and community team that it was doing good at the Danesbury Centre.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a limit to how far that can go.
Yeah.
And how many people that can help. So I just decided, let's do more.
Do more.
And nobody is more powerful in this than what do they call it? There's this catchphrase they talk about now, lived experience.
Lived experience, yes. We've got the lived
never
experience.
used to exist. But lived experience is powerful.
It is.
Amongst things people like politicians. You know, we are the most powerful people because, as you said, we are voters after all.
Yeah.
And the idea that we're not a big enough group of voters is true. But if we were able to build awareness of the £43 billion
Yes.
financial drag,
Yeah.
and Rachel Reeves tried to fill part of her financial hole in the budget by doing something about that,
Okay.
then you know we are, and
Yes.
we make the wider public aware of, you know, that 335,000 people.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, they might reach out and try and help locally as well. So it's powerful to help other people.
It is.
Matt takes his situation and uses it to help others like him and us. His brilliant blog Brainfart is at brainfartblog.co.uk, all one word, .wordpress.com. There's been a lot of name drops in this episode, so a quick explanation. The Danesbury Neurological Centre is a specialist rehab unit in Welwyn, Hertfordshire. Lister Hospital is a general hospital in Stevenage, Hertfordshire. Adam Brooks is a huge university hospital in Cambridge. The Marbrook Centre is a neurological care and rehabilitation facility in St Neots, Cambridgeshire. Different Strokes is a charity that provides peer support and resources for working-age stroke survivors and their families. Lean Six Sigma is a well-known business management and improvement system, which Matt has cleverly repurposed to manage and improve his own stroke recovery. And big thanks to Matt himself. We intend to keep up with him on his journey into the world of brain injury and politics. What Memory is our personal podcast. Any views expressed are purely our own or the personal views of our guests. We are not expressing the views of any organisation or business. Okay, we're done. The only thing we know for sure after brain injury is that the future is unknown and daunting, but it's only going to be brighter if we plan for it to be that way. Bye for now.